Hello, everybody! My name is Justin Chappell. I am the culinary director at large for Food and Wine, host of Food and Wine's Mad Genius video series, but more importantly, today I am your host for the first ever Food and Wine Classic at home, and I couldn't be more thrilled to be your host today. We have tons and tons of people tuning in on foodandwine.com and on YouTube from all over the United States and all over the world, so I want to welcome everybody. For the last 38 years, the Food and Wine Classic has taken place in the gorgeous mountains of Aspen, Colorado. And unfortunately, this year, like many live events, due to the pandemic, we were unable to get together in person, but we are so excited to be giving you a taste of our signature event right in the comfort of your own homes. Today, we've got incredible food. We have some outstanding and delicious wines and beers. We have awesome recipes that are going to be demonstrated by some of the best ever culinary talent. But more importantly, we are in a position to support some really worthwhile causes. And with that, I would love to tell you a little bit about F&W Cares, which is an initiative that we started to create meaningful change through feeding, nurturing, and educating our community. And today, F&W Cares is working with 5 charity partners to support their missions to inspire and empower and defend diversity and uplift and help small businesses and people in the food and beverage industry. And those 5 partners that we are working with today include the Jacques Pépin Foundation. We have the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund, the Southern Smoke Foundation, Wholesome Wave, and World Central Kitchen. And throughout today's presentations, you will hear a lot more about these charities, but in the meantime, I would like to let you know that I got some pretty good news that right now, as of now, we are at almost $12,000 in donations. And one of the reasons we made this event complimentary today is because the hope is that all of you incredibly gorgeous, very intelligent, super generous people tuning in will donate even just a little bit of money to help us reach our goal today of raising $50,000 for these incredible organizations. Like I said, you'll hear a lot about these charities and all the good they do throughout today's event. And if you look below on the screen, there is that little donate button. So throughout the evening or the afternoon, you can go ahead and click that and donate whatever you can. It's super appreciated. So before I introduce our first couple of speakers, just a few housekeeping things to go over. First and foremost, there is that questions and comments section. So it wouldn't be a live event if you guys didn't interact with us. So let us know any questions you have, or if you just want to tell me how adorable I look in this blue shirt, I'll take it. If our presenters don't get back to you, don't worry, because we have food and wine editors standing by who are going to be responding to you in real time. A couple other things down below. If you didn't know, you can download all of the recipes that are being featured today so that you can follow along, and hopefully you'll be a little inspired, and then you'll make the recipes and you'll tag Food and Wine on social media. And if you are lucky enough to have ordered the wines in advance, because we have 2 wine tastings and a beer pairing today, for those of you who ordered all the wines and bought the beers, you can look below to download instructions on how to set up your tastings. But if you didn't get them, don't worry. You're going to learn a ton from our experts, and you're going to want to go out and buy all these wines and get the beers for next time. So just grab a glass of whatever you have on hand that tastes really delicious, and you'll enjoy the show. And don't forget to post pictures on social media of your wine tastings, your beer pairing. If you made pizza or are making pizza, go ahead and take a picture of that. And I think you should even take a selfie with me on the screen, and maybe a selfie with Martha and all the other experts, and tag that across all your social media channels using the hashtag FWClassicAtHome. That is the hashtag we are using today. Okay, I'm going to introduce our couple speakers. As you can see, I've got my Le Creuset pizza pan here. I am preparing my pizza for Food and Wine executive wine editor Ray Isles, doing the perfect pizza wines in a little bit. So if you are making pizza or you have one in the freezer, I say get it in the oven now. If not, you still have time to pick up the phone or get on the delivery app and have one delivered so that it's ready to go for the session. Okay, I think we should get started. Enough of me. First up, we are going to be joined by a very good friend of mine. She is the executive chef of Arlo Gray in Austin, Texas. You might know her as the winner of season 10 of season 10 of Bravo's Top Chef. Ladies and gentlemen, we are being joined by Kristen Kish. And following Kristen Kish, another very good friend of mine, Anthony Giglio. He has been a part of the Food and Wine family forever, and he has an incredible tasting we're calling the Summer Sippers Smackdown, and there is a poll involved there. So if you look down below, there's a polling tool. So what I recommend is waiting until you taste all the wines along with Anthony, because he's going to go into all the nitty gritty, and then pick your favorite. If you've already had the wines in advance and you're not doing the tasting with Anthony, you can select the one that you like best. And then after Anthony's done, I'll rejoin him right back here and we will review the results. So with that all said, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna get this show started. I'm gonna turn it over to my friend, Kristen Kish.
Awesome. Thanks, Justin. I am sending you lots of love from afar, wishing everyone, first and foremost, health and safety and fighting the good fight. I just have to put that out there. So I'm very excited to be part of Food and Wine's first ever at-home classic. And one of my favorite things during the Food and Wine Classic, one, outside of being in Aspen, which unfortunately we cannot do right now, but we do have this lovely backdrop, is really just being able to cook and have conversation around food, which is exactly what we're going to be doing. So one of my favorite summertime dishes, one, it's pasta, and two, it's like this light, rich sauce. And I love dishes that can be made ahead of time, that can be kept in the freezer. Everything is really in the preparation, which I know chefs, you hear us say it all the time, mise en place and kind of getting yourself a head start is a really helpful way to keep an organized kitchen. So Gnudi. So Gnudi is essentially just the inside of like a cheese ravioli or stuffed shell or that ricotta layer in lasagna. And it's super simple to make, really hard to mess up, and it freezes really well. So pasta making is probably one of my favorite things to do. Pasta making without any machinery is even better. So to make the Gnudi, it's really just 4 or 5 ingredients. So we're going to start with ricotta. You can make your own ricotta at home if you want. So my personal favorite kind of recipe of ricotta is for a gallon of milk. I typically do about a 1/4 cup of lemon juice, so you can do vinegar. You bring it up, you let it curdle, strain it, whatever. I'm sure Food and Wine has a great recipe out there. So ricotta, this one is store-bought, and you do want to make sure that it is full fat and low moisture. So we have 1 whole egg, 1 egg yolk. We have Parmesan cheese that we microplane. So it's really important that you don't use the big chunky box grater. $12.95, I think, on Amazon, probably sales now these days. So highly recommend investing in this. We have all-purpose flour. So it's about a 1/4 cup plus a little extra. And then a pinch of nutmeg. So not so much where it tastes like Christmas, but like that little, that's nice. And then hefty pinch of salt. And we have some freshly ground pepper. And at this point, this is really just a blank canvas to add any extra flavor that you want. So you can add lemon zest, you can add different spices. Pink peppercorns would be really beautiful in this. Pickled mustard seeds, whole grain mustard, really anything that doesn't add too much moisture, but you can really add any flavor, it's up to you. So as we start to mix it, you'll see that you don't actually form a dough ball. You want it to be quite wet. And a couple tips to make this a little easier to roll out. If you take this, wrap it in plastic and put it in the refrigerator, it does firm up just a little bit. So it does make it a little bit easier to roll out. And because my lovely videographer is charging me by the minute, I have some already made. So we'll skip ahead to this process. So this has been sitting in the refrigerator for overnight, really. Then we're just going to take a little bit of extra flour to dust, and then we're going to turn that out on our board. A little bit of flour on your hands. And you can use a gnocchi board if you want. You can use a fork, a knife, whatever. We're just going to make it really simple and just make little pillows. So we're going to take our dough. We're going to roll very, very gently. And then you can really make any size that you want. Warning though, there is a little expansion that happens in the water, so you don't want to go too big. So here, I just take an offset, dip it in flour, and then you can form all your little pillows, just like that. So these also are really good frozen. So you can go right from the freezer into boiling water. You don't really have to think about it. It takes very, very little time. So these are the ones that I made and that are frozen and mildly defrosted at this point. And we can just dunk these right into our boiling water. So really, that is as simple as it is. I know we had a couple little swap outs for you, but it takes 5 minutes. Literally dump it all in. Great for kids. Great to do if you are a new beginner in the pasta making world. It's a really good place to start. So highly, highly recommend. Now, the sauce. I'm keeping this sauce as like using what you have in your refrigerator that maybe is going bad because you need to get it used up, or you go to the farmer's market and whatever really inspired you. So come this way or that way, whichever way, it doesn't matter. And the sauce is, again, one of the most simplest things that you can do in a very, very short amount of time. One little bit of information. You want to be sure that when you add tomatoes or lemon juice, anything obviously that is high moisture content into this olive oil based sauce, that you keep your face away from it, first of all, and sort of get everything in and around the same temperature, because if it's hot hitting cold, you're going to get a bigger splatter than if everything is roughly the same temp. So you don't want to go cold tomatoes from the refrigerator with your room temperature olive oil. If that makes sense. Okay, so we're going to heat up our pan here. We have extra virgin olive oil. Heat it up just a touch. So it's around a half a cup for all of our Gnudis. And then we have thinly sliced garlic. Again, little or as much as you want, depending on how much you want garlic with or not. And then we have some summer squash, one of my absolute favorites, especially when it gets like that nice char on the outside. And we're probably on a medium-high heat right now. So once you start adding things into your olive oil, keep an eye on it because it goes really quickly from perfect to like way overcooked. So we'll take our squash, make sure it's all even. So now we've started this, and at the same time, we're going to take some salt, add it to our boiling water. And your Gnudis take about, I don't know, 3.5 minutes, depending if they're going to go right from rolling to pan or if you've frozen them. So we're going to plop those in. So we can start to see the garlic brown. I'm not going to go too close to your face, but I do want you to see it. So we're starting to get a little bit of color. This is very dangerous. Don't do this at home. And then we're going to take some chopped walnuts, untoasted, because we do want them to fry in the olive oil. And we're going to start to toast everything together. My favorite way of doing basil is torn. I'm not a julienne kind of basil gal. I feel like it's a mouthfeel, so I prefer just to take big leaves and tear chunks in them. Now, you can add some spice. I happen to like a lot of spice. We're going to take a little bit of lemon zest. And by a little, I meant a lot. A little bit of lemon juice. I'm going to start to let this all kind of reduce a little bit. A knob of butter, because olive oil is just never enough. Some salt. And this sauce too, again, really good on like crunchy sourdough, because I know everyone went on the sourdough craze, so you probably have a lot in your freezer. Or you can do over a creamy polenta or rice if you want to do gluten-free or dairy-free. Really, it's just take anything that's delicious and fry it in olive oil, add a little bit of acid, some salt, some heat, and you're great. So now this is all kind of come together. I turned off the heat. We're going to add some halved cherry tomatoes. And I turned off the heat because I don't want it to turn into like a tomato sauce. We just want to warm this through slightly. Great. So if you do it perfectly, everything comes together at the same time. Now, your pasta won't wait for your sauce, but your sauce will wait for your pasta. So if you're worried about trying to time it right, all you got to do is just make your sauce in its entirety and then drop your gnudi in. We're going to fish these out. Do not start pouring this in a colander and, dumping hot water all over your gnudi. The idea of saving pasta water is very important. Also, the idea of not destroying your little pillowy gnudi is very important. Take those out. I would highly recommend a larger slotted spoon, but my friends in the Philippines got this for me, so I wanted to use it. Great. So we'll just do a nice little toss. We're going to be very gentle because those gnudis are very, very delicate. I mean, it looks pretty damn delicious, I think. And then we'll plate it up. You will make sure you get all the good stuff, some of that olive oil and that butter. And that plate a little bit. Some extra basil for garnish. Some crunchy sea salt. And then good hefty raining of Parmesan cheese. Lots of Parmesan cheese. Cool. And that is it. That is your gnudi with a summer olive oil sauce. And it's so delicious. And the only thing that this is missing is wine. And I know the perfect guy, Anthony Giglio, hosting Summer Sipper Smackdown. Say that 5 times fast. So over to you, Anthony.
Thank you, Kristen. That was terrific. And I cannot wait to make gnudi with my wife tonight. How about that? All right, guys, I'm so thrilled to be here for my 25th. This is my 25th Food and Wine Classic, this one at home. So my first one at home, but my 25th Classic total. And it was actually in Aspen that we came up with this idea of hosting epic wine smackdowns. In Aspen, it's usually 6 wines. It's a big battle between all of them, but we have 3 delicious ones here today. So let's get ready to rumble. Come on, people. You know what I'm doing here. All right, wine number 1. Grab your Trimbach, beautiful Trimbach Riesling from Alsace, France. And I'm going to ask you to pour yourself maybe 2 ounces. And I'm going to ask you to taste it with me 3 times. If you've been to one of my seminars in Aspen or any of my tastings, you know the rules, people. We're going to taste this 3 times before we decide if we like it, because you're going to vote on this, but not yet. So the first sip we're going to call, it's the toast, but it's also the rinse, because it doesn't count, because what's on your palate before this affects it. And for me, it's all these wines. I've tasted them all before I came on. So let's make a toast here, everybody. Cheers to the Food and Wine Classic at home. Cheers to all of you. Cheers to your continued good health. Let's take a sip. It does not count. Now, do you see why it doesn't count? Because if you just brushed your teeth like me, you would actually be tasting like you just bit into a lemon. All right, the second sip is where we measure the balance, the beautiful balance. So let's take another sip together and pay attention to what happens. It's perfect. Down it goes. Here comes the flood. The tide comes rising. Beautiful battle between fruit and acid on the palate right now. And acid will always win. This is where we measure the acid. But guess what, everybody? This is a bone-dry Riesling. I know that when most people see the tall, skinny bottle in the wine shop, they walk right on by because they think, oh, I don't like Riesling. They're all sweet. I'm here to tell you, newsflash, they're not all sweet. Only ones with blue nuns and screaming black cats on the label are actually the sweet ones. This is bone dry. And if you buy it from Alsace, France, the only style is dry. And this is a delicious, delicious version. I love this wine. And I would tell you this, if you like this wine right now on the second sip where we balanced it, congratulations, we're on the same path, we're on the same plane. But if you don't, guess what, people? I couldn't care less. And you know what that means? That's my sincere way of saying, I'm not here to judge your palate. You own your palate. But I would beg for one more sip. And I'm going to have a little bite of some Kerrygold Dubliner cheese that the fine folks at Kerrygold sent me. I have a good little piece of Dubliner, which is sort of like a Parmigiano Reggiano cheese. So it speaks to my Italian cheese love. I'm going to take a bite. I'm going to take another sip. And now, where's all that acid? Completely calm, creamy, delicious. The wine actually gets rounder and evolves so much more in the palate with just a little bit of fat plus salt. Guys, you could use a potato chip. You could use salted nuts. You could swallow before you speak like I should. But you taste the wine 3 times and you have a beautiful perspective of it before and during and after food. Now, if you don't like this wine, we move on to the second one. But if you do like it, make note of it. We're going to vote on it in a few minutes. All right, second wine, Tablas Creek. And it's got a little fancy French name, Patelin de Tablas, which I had to Google. And you know what it means? Patelin means the boondocks. So it's a total tongue-in-cheek name for the boondocks of Central Coast, California. And this wine is beautiful because you don't know me, guys, but I am a huge, huge, huge Rhone fan. People ask me, what's my favorite region on the planet? Everyone expects me to say Italy because, I'm Italian. There's a lot of vowels in the name. People expect me to love Italy. I love all wine, by the way. And if you're buying, I definitely like it. But if we're going to have some wine, I love the whites of the Rhone, which are Marsanne, Roussanne, Viognier, Grenache Blanc, and the reds, Syrah, Grenache, and Mourvedre, so the GSMs that you could buy in California and Australia. But let's pour a little splash of this beautiful white blend, which is why it's, by the way, so there's no grape on the label because they just call it Patelin because it's a blend. So let's give it just smell it first, guys. Holy cow. It is so summery. It's honeyed and white flowers. It's so, so pretty. This is a blend of Grenache Blanc, Viognier, Roussanne, Marsanne, and Claret Blanc. So it's a big, big grand misto. Let's take the first sip. It doesn't count. Okay, down it goes. The acid on the last wine is affecting it. So get back in there for the second sip and behold the lusciousness. Cheers. Down it goes. By the way, if you wonder what I'm doing here, I say this at all my tastings. We are not having tea with the queen. I want you to swish it all around, all around. When I go like this, you swallow, and we all have this collective epiphany. Right now, there's a flood still happening in my mouth. The tide rises. It's not so much acid this time. It's beautiful fruit here, too. I love this wine. I could gulp the whole bottle without even thinking about food, but I'm going to take some potato chips here. Now, a little fat and salt on the palate. Let's taste it again. Oh man, that is so good. It's sort of like, what this reminds me of? This is like the most super ripe, almost like collapsing summer plum that you have to eat leaning over the kitchen sink. So it's sort of like the lean and bite over the sink. That's what this tastes like, the most delicious summer stone fruits, I would say. So plums, peaches, especially white peaches, which I love. If you like number 2, Tablas Creek, Patelin de Tablas, make note of it, but I wouldn't count out the last wine. Folks, you need to know this. This Thursday coming, I would be flying to Sicily with my family to visit my wife's family, and we are so missing Sicily that I've been drinking a lot of wines from Etna, which is where my wife's parents' house is. Etna Rosso is the name to know. By the way, also because it's a perfect summer red, and you'll notice it's glistening with sweat here because I just pulled it out of the ice bucket. These are chillable. Etna Rosso is made with Nerello Mascalese with a touch of Nerello Cappuccio. The grapes, you'll never find them on the bottle. Just remember Etna Rosso. Etna Bianco, by the way, is spectacular too. But this wine is often compared to something sort of like a Pinot Noir. So they always talk about this in terms of its Burgundian quality, or also it reminds people of maybe from up north that it might remind you of Piedmont. So a little bit of Nebbiolo too, but I think they're a little fruitier. They show a little more fruit. Let's take a sip, and you'll see in the color right away that it is very light, like a Pinot Noir. Really, really pretty. Let's take a sip together. Well, let's smell it first. Wow, really, really pretty. To me, it's super earthy. More red fruit to me than black fruit. Let's taste it together. Cheers, everybody. Cheers. Okay, first sip doesn't count. And gosh, that tastes terrible after that delicious, unctuous Rhone blend from Talbot's Creek. We have to take a second sip together. Let's do it. Down it goes. And there it is. Beautiful balance. Now we have 4 elements battling here. Fruit and acid again. We also have tannin, which is medium, I'd say in here. It's not big like a Cabernet. And alcohol, which is not a factor because I chilled it. I'm telling you all, you need to chill all of your reds in the summer. Not ice cold, but a good 5 to 10 minutes in an ice bucket makes all the wine so much happier, and it'll make you and your guests happier too. I'm going to taste a little piece of cheese with this. And let's taste it again. God, it becomes so much richer and earthier just from a little fat and salt. Guys, this is not magic. This is Food and Wine 101. You put a little food on the palate, a little wine on the palate, and everything changes. So I love to show the wine. First, the rinse, get rid of it. Second, taste it to just measure balance and see if you like it. If you like it, great, we're done. If you're not sure, add a little fat plus salt. And then if you still don't like it, you have my respect because you've tried it and you've given it a fair share. Now, you've tried all 3 wines. Let's review. If you're going to vote on wine number 1, Trimbach Riesling from Alsace, France, or are you going to vote for wine number 2, Talbot Creek Patelin de Tables Rhone Blanc, white Rhone blend from Central Coast, California, or are you coming with me to Sicily for Tornatore Etna Rosso that is served beautifully chilled? You have the tab to vote, and while they're voting, Justin, what do you want to do? Are there any questions you want to ask me from the peanut gallery?
Hey, Anthony, as usual, you did an incredible tasting. And what they forget to warn you when you agree to host one of these things is that it's a dangerous job because I have to keep sipping all these and then, keep introducing people. So yes. Okay. So we are going to let our friends at Food and Wine pull together the poll results. And in the meantime, I have 2 really quick questions for you if you have time. The first comes from Rob in New York, and he says, his question is, why do you call these summer sippers?
Summer sippers, because all of them have one unifying quality, the acid. And it's so funny because in food writing, I don't think, Justin, as a food writer, you use acid as a positive or even at all. But in wine writing, we talk about acid. And we want that we think about acid, think about how you would squeeze a lemon to brighten any flavor of anything you're cooking with. Like even if it's just raw bar or fish out of the oven, meat off the grill, we squeeze lemons on everything with a little brightening. All of these wines have a thread of acidity through all of them that make them gulpable and refreshing at the height of super humid summer. At least here in the East Coast, it is brutal out today. As soon as we're done here, guys, I'm opening the windows and I'm going to chug all 3 of these wines in moderation.
I do have to correct myself. That was actually Christy from New Jersey. Rob from New York is actually asking, which of these 3 wines would you recommend with the seafood dinner?
With a seafood dinner?
Yes.
So, all right. So I'm going to blow up an old wine thought that you can only have white wine with fish and red wine with meat. I would say both of these whites, terrific with fish, no problem. But the red, how do you anchor red wine to fish? Add earthy elements. Add tomatoes. Add mushrooms. Add burnt noisettes, a little brown burnt butter. Capers, delicious. Add a little earthiness to the preparation, and you anchor it to red wine. No problem. And by the way, guys, if the fish is cooked and you check the fridge and there's only red wine, guess what? You're going to have a delicious pairing of red wine and fish, and it's going to be a lot better than fish and water. Yeah? Can we agree on that, Justin?
I think we agree on that, and I think we're ready for the poll results. So do you have them? If
okay.
I will give you a drum roll.
It sounds like it's a barn burner. I'm getting results here. All right, Justin, can you get a drum roll?
Did you get it?
Wait, Justin, did you give me a drum roll?
I am giving to you currently.
Ladies and gentlemen, Trimbach Riesling for the win.
Woo! I'll hold it up too.
Congratulations to Trimbach Riesling for the champion of the Food and Wine Classic at home. Smackdown.
All right, Anthony, I'm going to cut you off. I love you so much. I cannot wait to see you in Aspen next year. Hopefully I'll see you sooner because I want to give you a big hug. I'm going to let you go, and I am going to introduce our next 3 cooking demonstrations. Ladies and gentlemen, get ready for these. First up, we have the one, the only Jacques Pépin, the legend himself. He is a culinary icon. He teaches and educates. He's been doing it his whole entire life through television series, video segments, and 30 cookbooks, if you can possibly believe that. That is an accurate number, 30 cookbooks. And following Jacques, we have Kwame Onwuachi, who you might know from Bravo's Top Chef. He is also a food and wine best new chef. We are so lucky to have him in the family. And a fun little tidbit about Kwame is he opened 5 restaurants before he was 30. And if there's any person in the industry that makes me feel like I'm not doing enough, it's Kwame. He's all over the place. We love him. And then following Kwame, we have an incredible, awesome guest. We have New York Times best-selling cookbook author Ayesha Curry here. She is also the creator of a brand new magazine called Sweet July, which is really exciting. And she's going to be making banana fritters from her book. But like I said, first up, we have Jacques. So I want to turn it over to him, but I do want to tell you a little bit about the Jacques Pépin Foundation, which is one of the partners we're working with today. We're so lucky to be working with them. They're longtime friends of food and wine, and I have a personal connection to the foundation. It was started in 2016 by Jacques and his daughter Claudine and her husband Raleigh. And the mission is to change lives through culinary education, which is really what Jacques has been doing his entire life. And so what the foundation does is works closely with community-based organizations. A lot of times these are community kitchens, and they provide grants, they provide educational resources, and all of this is to provide training, free training, by the way, to individuals who are detached from the workforce. They face high barriers to employment, and the idea is to give them the confidence and to give them the job skills they need so that they can re-enter the job force. A lot of times that is in the food and beverage industry, which, as you know, we 100% support. And so with all of that, please don't forget to click that little donate button, give as little or as much as you can. And I just want to point out that the Jacques Pépin Foundation had to cancel their annual gala this year, which is where they raise most of their funds. And so they really, really need our help right now. So let's do it. Let's make them proud. And with that, I would like to introduce to you the man himself, the icon, the culinary legend, Jacques Pépin.
I'm making steak grandma today, named after Julia, my mother-in-law, who was from Puerto Rico, and love steak with lime or lemon. Usually she uses lime, I don't have lime, so I'm using lemon. Some anchovy fillet, some garlic too, and those are the butcher steak. And often this is the skirt steak, which is inside the animal. This is the oyster steak, like the oyster in the chicken, or the shoulder steak, the shoulder blade steak. It comes under the name top blade steak, flat iron steak. That probably would be my favorite. So with this, I'm going to put some salt on top of it. This is the one, and this is a skirt steak. And the skirt steak is good too. It's what they use usually for fajita and stuff like this. But my favorite is still this one, if you can find it at the butcher or at your supermarket. I'm going to put maybe a tablespoon of butter in there and a couple of teaspoons of oil. I'm going to do some lime, or in that case lemon rind. Here I have it here, which I'm going to put in there. A little piece of lemon that I'm going to squeeze on it at the end. I have garlic here, so 2 small cloves of garlic. That, and a couple of anchovy fillet that I have here that I'm going to chop with the garlic. Here is my steak, ready to go. Couple of minutes on each side. Here we are here. This is a wonderful mixture of garlic and anchovy fillet here. I put that in there. And be a good tablespoon of chopped parsley. We'll put that at the end on it. And I want to saute around the steak at the end, maybe a little bit. I have 1 mushroom here. I don't think we had that in the original recipe, but just happened to have it in my refrigerator, so I'm going to use it. Just chop it coarsely like this. Now let's see my steak here. Beautifully brown. It is better, of course, if you have a chance of letting your meat rest. If it rests a couple of minutes before you serve it, it equalizes the color. I can touch it like that. The way it bounces back will tell me how cooked it is. You know, raw meat is very mushy, and it starts cooking and it starts bouncing. If at that point it doesn't bounce back, it's just hard, then it's well done. You know, so it's somewhere in between, and you get used to it in the kitchen, of course. What I'm going to do is probably put my mushroom here. And I think it's cooked enough. So I will have it this way. Here it is. Those steaks are about 5 ounces, small steak, but we don't really use more than that. So here, to deglaze the pan with a bit of juice, I put like a tablespoon of water in it. Then I'm going to put that mixture in it. Just stir it. And that's it. I'm going to put that on top of my steak. Good. And don't forget a nice squeeze of lime or lemon. Steak grandma. So let me see the inside. And here is to you, Julia. It would be about rare like this, the way we like it. Of course, you can cook it longer. I hope you enjoy that. Bon appétit and happy cooking.
Jacques, what an honor to be on the same list as chefs like you. My name is Kwame Onwuachi, and I'm in the spirit of giving back. One of the charities this event is directly going to is World Central Kitchen. Now, for those of you that don't know this, World Central Kitchen was founded by Chef Jose Andres from Washington, D.C. and Spain. And the central mission is really to give everyone access to food, no matter what you're going through. I'm talking pandemic, earthquake, hurricane, whatever. Whatever it is, Chef Jose Andres shows up and shows out for the communities from across the globe to right here in America. So I'm proud to be a part of that. And I'm proud to be a part of this event, which is going straight to that cause. So we're going to jump right into it. Today, we're making a couple of my favorite dishes put together. We have turned cornmeal, which is called cuckoo in some parts of the Caribbean. It's like a polenta style dish, but it's made with coconut milk. So it's way more aromatic and flavorful. We also have seared snapper with a Creole sauce. Now this Creole sauce, the base of it is flavored with crustacean bodies. And then we simmer that and make a nice aromatic broth. And then we make a tomato sauce and cook most of the moisture out so the flavor is intensified. So I'm going to show you how to do that. We're going to go over to the stove. So as you can see, I have my shrimp stock going. And we have a lot of aromatics here. We have celery, we have carrots, bay leaf, thyme, garlic, and then our shrimp bodies that we've caramelized before we've added our liquid. So in order to start this, I'm just going to put this on medium heat, and we're going to start sweating our aromatics for this Creole sauce. So I'm going to add a neutral oil. I have grapeseed oil here, just enough to coat the pan. And I'm going to add onion, garlic, green bell pepper, and some celery. Now this is the holy trinity, a Creole mirepoix from New Orleans. So this is something that's near and dear to my heart. It's blending the cultures of the Caribbean as well as the cultures in Louisiana, the Creole nation. So it tells the story of my family. It also tells the story of America and how we are more similar than we are different. So I'm going to turn this up a bit, and I'm going to add a little bit of salt. And this salt is going to help bring out the moisture in these vegetables and speed up this cooking process. So as this is going, I'm gonna start working on the turned cornmeal. It's really good to like have multiple pots going at the same time. You know, that's how you get the food out quicker and you make people happy. Very, very important. So I'm gonna add some more neutral cooking oil to this, and we're gonna do the same exact thing. We're gonna start cooking the aromatics, let them sweat down, soften. Their natural sugars will start to release. I'm gonna put this on medium-high heat. Second time's a charm. And this is smelling amazing in here already and haven't done much. So now that this pan is heated, I'm gonna do the same thing. Add my onions, boom. And also make sure you clean as you go. Very, very important. Garlic, and I'm gonna let that sweat a little bit. And since they're similar flavors, less dishes. Use the same spatula. Think ahead. Super important when you're cooking at home. You don't wanna be up all night doing dishes, right? So now that this has come down a bit, I'm gonna add the tomato paste, and we're gonna cook this until it starts to become like a little bit rusty in color. At this point, I'm gonna switch spoons to the wooden, and I'm gonna add my green onions. Turn this up a bit. So now that it's got a nice rusty color to the tomato paste, you can start adding some of this broth to it. A couple vegetables get in there, it's okay. Tastes really good anyway. They're nice and soft. And then I'll cut that off. I'm gonna add my Creole spice, my thyme, and then my crushed tomatoes. And now we're gonna turn this on low. This sauce is gonna build while everything is making, and it's going to come together so beautifully. Let everything melt together. Let those flavors really sing. I'm gonna check on this over here. Oh, this is looking great. So while this is going, I'm gonna mix my cornmeal and water together. And the reason why I'm doing this is because as I put it in, I want it to be smooth. So we add this cold, and then we fold it into our hot coconut milk liquid, which we'll get to in a second. I'm gonna put this off to the side. I'm gonna add some thyme to this, and then the coconut milk. It smells so good in here. It reminds me of my childhood. And now I'm gonna put this right in. And the reason why we add it with the water is because it helps it incorporate and not get any lumps. You don't want lumpy polenta, right? So you don't want lumpy turned cornmeal. It's not attractive. I'm gonna add some butter to this too, because everything is better with butter. All right, so we've got our sauce going. Now I'm gonna move this sauce to the back because we're about to jump into this fish action real quick. And as this starts to get hot, it's going to thicken. And you wanna move from the whisk to the wooden spatula. And that's where that turned cornmeal, the name of the dish comes from, because you're literally turning it with the wooden spatula to get to the consistency that you really want. And it doesn't really take long to cook. About 5 minutes. You can even pick the pot up a little bit and turn it over like this. So I'm gonna put this on low. I'm gonna add some oil to this pan over here. And once the pan is smoking, that's when we're gonna add the fish. Not before, not too long after, just right when it starts to smoke. We're gonna season it with salt and then put it right in the pan, and we're gonna press the fish down. But the skin is extremely dry. We've kind of like air dried the fish a little bit, and that gives it more of a crispy skin. But look at this cornmeal though. It's already getting nice and thick. I'm gonna taste the sauce really quickly, because once this fish goes in, it goes like that. So, this is beautiful. That like crustacean flavor really comes through, and it sings with the tomato. And then the celery and bell pepper and onion and garlic, forget about it. So I'm gonna sear it skin side down. Once again, I'm gonna sear it skin side down. Whoop. Skin side down. And then I'm gonna press down on it. When you place it in the pan, it's gonna constrict. And that's why you press it down. So the skin is on that layer of oil and it's getting crispy. You'll see it's gonna go from translucent to kind of opaque around the edge of the fish. And when it gets closer to the center, that's when you know that it's ready to go. But the fish is gonna release on its own from the pan. So as tempted as it is to touch it, don't touch it until it releases itself. You'll start to see like a golden brown ring around the edge as well. And that's something that you're also looking for to let you know that it's crispy and ready to flip. This is the perfect consistency right here. All we're looking for with this. And this should be timed perfectly that your fish is ready to flip. So we're just gonna flip it gently. You can see it's nice and golden brown. Beautiful, beautiful fish. Snapper is one of my favorite fish. So sweet and delicate and tender and juicy. It's amazing. So once you flip it, you're so close to the promised land. You're about 3 minutes out. It's time to just check the seasoning on everything else. I'm just gonna pop that right there. You have your sauce Creole, nice and thick. You know, we cook this down so most of the moisture and liquid comes out of it and the flavor starts to intensify. The turned cornmeal. We just want to season this with salt afterwards. Buttery, coconut flavor, green onion, amazing. This fish is ready to go. Set to the side. All right, now we're ready to plate. So we've got our turned cornmeal here, and I'm just gonna put a little bit of this on the bottom of the plate. A nice dollop of that. Then we're gonna put this beautiful crispy snapper. Like that. And then we're gonna put this sauce just like draping off of one side. Now, the reason why is I want that beautiful skin to stay crispy. So I'm just gonna put the sauce on the side, like that. Add a couple leaves of parsley. Oh man, this looks so good. I hope everyone's looked like this. This is perfect, 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 perfect. And it's got all my cultures on one plate. Oh my God, this this is so amazing. Mm. I need a moment. That shrimp flavor with the snapper, it goes hand in hand, and it's so buttery. The turned cornmeal at the bottom adds a whole nother dimension to this dish. That coconut, the green onion, the thyme in there, and the butter all comes out, and this makes a perfect dish. So thank you all for joining. I'm gonna pass this over to my homegirl, Ayesha Curry. She's gonna make a banging dish for y'all, so stay tuned.
Hey everyone at home, Ayesha Curry here. I am super excited to be here for this virtual classic for the Food and Wine Festival. I am honored today to be sharing with you a recipe that we included in the first issue of my magazine, Sweet July. We are gonna be making a quick and easy banana fritter with rum sauce. It's delicious. You know, it's minimal ingredients, but it's packed full of flavor, and I think you guys are really gonna love it. So I wanna go ahead and jump right in. You guys, we're gonna start out with these fritters. They are so quick and easy and a great way to use your ripe bananas. Now, if you don't have ripe bananas, like I did not, I had, they were a bit unripe, You can actually set your oven to 300 degrees and pop them in on a sheet pan for about 15 minutes, and they get like this, and they soften up, the juices come out, the sweetness comes out, and then you have what is just like a ripe banana. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop my ripe bananas into the bowl, just like so. I love anything with banana in it. I like chocolate chip banana bread, but especially these fritters because of that rum sauce and the sweetness. They're pillowy like a dumpling. So special. All right, I'm gonna get a spatula here and we are going to mash up this banana just in the bowl like so. Get it nice and mashed. Super easy. I am going to grab my milk. Oh my Lord, I left my milk in the fridge. This is my fridge, everyone. Get my milk out and we are going to pop in about a quarter cup of milk, just like so. And we're gonna incorporate that with the bananas. It is totally fine if it's not smooth and a little bit chunky. I actually like that bite when I fry up my fritters. So just like that. Then we are going to grab our flour now that we have the milk and the banana mashed together. So we're gonna go in with about 1.5 cups of flour. Just like so, 1.5 cups. All right, I have brown sugar. If any of you guys follow along with me, you know I love this in savory foods. I also love it in my baking. I use it in my chocolate chip cookies instead of white sugar, just obsessed. So we're gonna put a couple tablespoons in of the brown sugar, and this is going to sweeten up those fritters. I then have my leavening agents and my stabilizers, a little baking soda and a little baking powder. In it goes, just like so. Hands up for anybody throughout their cooking journey that has accidentally swapped out baking soda and baking powder. It happened to me so much in my teen years when I would bake for my family, and it's not the best when it happens. It is not the best. So just a little bit of baking soda, about 1/4 teaspoon, right in there. All right. I'm going to mix this up, and it's going to form a wet dough. So you'll see it starts to come together and forms a sticky, wet dough. All right, it's time to get our oil nice and hot. You wanna get that oil to about 325, 350. Turn on my stove here. You can do it in a Dutch oven, you can do it in a fryer. I'm using just a deep skillet here with about 1/2 inch of canola frying oil in my pan. So that's gonna heat up while we mix this together. I now am gonna add in a little bit of vanilla. Now, I love to use my homemade vanilla. I have been making this for about almost a year now. There's cinnamon sticks, cardamom pods, star anise in there. And this is my nod to Ina, but if you don't have homemade vanilla, you can use store-bought. I love me some Ina Garten. All right, there's that. I've got some fresh nutmeg in here. Powder is fine if that's what you got. Just like that. Pinch of cinnamon. Cinnamon and bananas go so well together. Do it in pancakes, French toast, you name it. I love to caramelize bananas and then put the cinnamon in the French toast batter. Oh, what a pairing. All right, this is, I'm gonna show you, just lift it up like that. Can you see that? That is our fritter batter. Say that 5 times fast, fritter batter. All right, our oil should be getting nice and hot. And while that continues to heat, I wanna tell you guys about this rum sauce that's so delicious. I have my rum here. This is not for me to drink. I have not been sipping on this, although I would love to. but this is for our rum sauce. So we have a 1/4 cup of rum. We're gonna put that into the rum sauce last. Why? Because there is sugar and butter in this sauce and chocolate chips, and you don't want that sugar to crystallize. It'll become gritty and the sauce won't be smooth. So that's gonna go in last. I have here a couple tablespoons of sugar, brown sugar. Boom, boom, heaping tablespoons. 1/4 cup of butter. I actually prefer to use salted butter in this. I like the little bit of salt mixed with all that sugar and chocolate. I think it's really, really nice. A 1/4 cup of chocolate chips, and then we're gonna turn the heat on low and let this all come together. And I'm gonna give it a whisk at the end, add in that rum, and that'll be our rum sauce. All right, our oil should be hot. I'm gonna remove this spatula, pop it in my sink, and we are going to use a 1/4 cup measuring cup and pop in that batter. So you guys can see here, just like so. It's such down-home cooking. There's really nothing to it. You don't have to worry too much about the shape. So yummy. Eat these for dessert. You can even have them for breakfast. A little snack. I mean, these days, who's watching? All right, so I've got 4 of my fritters in there. These take about 4 minutes total, so I'd say 2 minutes per side. So in about 2 minutes, we'll give it a flip. I have my rum here. I'm gonna check on my butter. Oh, let me show you. So that butter, chocolate chips, everything's beginning to melt. Super simple rum sauce. Again, that banana and chocolate combo. Can't get enough of it. All right, so that's melting. Again, rum goes in last. Don't want that sugar to crystallize. Don't forget it. All right, I'm gonna grab a little spatula because these are almost ready to flip. Move this out of the way so you guys can see these bad boys. I'm gonna flip them. Now, when you remove these from your oil, you wanna put them on a paper towel lined surface just to catch that excess oil. So important. So they don't get soggy, they stay nice and crisp on the outside, pillowy on the inside. Oh. It's so wild because if we were doing this in person, I feel like we'd be able to answer some questions, and it's a bummer that I can't do that, but also cool that you guys get to be with me in my kitchen. I like it. So I'm gonna give these a flip. They're nice and golden brown. Oh yeah. Okay. Boom. Gently, you don't want oil splattering all over the place. It's not what we're here for today. All right, so those are gonna cook on the other side for about 2 minutes. Oh, our rum sauce looks great. I've cut the heat. Well, I put the heat on low, and I'm gonna slowly whisk in my rum. Ooh. Totally fine for kids, by the way, because that alcohol is gonna cook off, so you don't have to worry about there being any alcohol content in this. All right, and then what you wanna do from there is let it cool. Oh! All right, we're gonna let it cool. Hopefully by time these fritters are done, that will have cooled a little bit so I can show you guys just how delicious and pillowy. I'm gonna grab a paper towel and line this. And while these are finishing up, guess something cool I can share with you from my kitchen that I hold near to my heart. This is from my mom's kitchen. She had it in her kitchen all while I was growing up, and it's a traditional picture of a Jamaican family eating and cooking rum cake in their kitchen, and I just love it. It makes me feel close to home and makes me feel like when I was growing up, and I love it. Would love to know if any of you have that in your kitchen. All right, these fritters look incredible. They are almost done. Yum. I actually think we can take these out. Let me show you. Look at that. Golden brown, delicious, yummy fritters. Cut my heat here. And I actually have some finished here to show you with that gorgeous, I put a little powdered sugar on there. I'll show you these, they're hot, but why not? Oh man, look at that heat coming out. the sugar and the oil crystallizes and caramelizes, and it just is so delicious and sweet and yummy. And then you have your rum sauce. I like to pour a little on top. Yes. Oh, you guys. Yum. I hope you guys enjoy these as much as my family does. Delicious. There's a little rum left in this glass. I think I know where that's going. You guys, thank you so much for watching and joining in on this with me. I'm so honored and happy I could be a part of it. Justin, I'm turning it back over to you. Bye, guys.
Oh, thank you so much, Ayesha. Those look incredible. And I just want to send a really big congratulations on your new magazine, Sweet July. Everyone who's tuning in, you should really check it out. And that's a little bit of a reminder that all of the recipes being featured today can be downloaded from below. So don't forget to get those. All right, we're switching gears a little bit. So if you ordered that pizza, it's time to get it out because we are going to do some pizza and wine pairing. I actually brought my Martha level energy today, so I made my own beautiful pizza that's about to slide right off this pan here. I'm just going to top it with some basil, and I'm going to be ready for Ray Isles' Perfect Pizza Wines seminar, which is coming right up. But before we go over to Ray, I want to make Ray a little uncomfortable. I don't know if he knows we're doing this, but one thing you might not know about Ray is that he is the star of our new video series called Bottle Service, where Ray profiles all these like movers and shakers in the wine and spirits industry and talks about what's in your glass. It's really awesome. It's really fun. And guess what? There's a lot of super celebs that Ray gets to hang out with, and we are going to check out Bottle Service right now.
Orange peel plus the bitters is,
It brings out the hints and tones.
of. Have we been coached?
I think so.
I think we've been coached.
Ever wondered what it might be like to have a drink with your favorite celebrity?
I like PD. It's like drinking salami.
I'm Ray Isle, chief wine guy for Food and Wine. And on Bottle Service, I get to do just that. I'm serving up cocktails, wine, and spirits to an A-list roster of celebrity chefs, winemakers, and superstars as they showcase their own adventures into the spirits world.
We're definitely not trying to make hipster wine.
Now that you have your own tequila, do you have to give up the other tequilas that you liked?
Immediately, right.
It's the white that I had the most fun with because I got to play.
We're not just talking business.
I brought you here to play this ridiculous game that we do called Sip, Savor, Spit. You get to choose one that's your sip, which is kind of like, I like it.
Yeah, it also has a winey taste to it.
One that's savor, which is like, oh my gosh, that's just terrific.
I could go deep on this one.
One will be spit. You can probably guess what that one is.
Yeah.
Do you like one of these wines better?
No.
Bottle Service. We're about the bars, the bottles, the community, and most importantly, enjoying the good life.
Cheers.
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 Absolutely.
Again.
You got a car to get me home, right?
Hello, everybody. I am psyched to be here. I'd be more psyched maybe to be in the mountains, but I'm still psyched to be here at home in New York, where it's 9,000 degrees outside. What can you do? Things happen, and you stay at home for 4 months. This is the way it goes. But it's great to be here. It's great to be doing the first Food and Wine Classic at home to everybody out there. I'm super psyched to see you, so to speak, and because I've been cooped up here for a few months in this fairly small apartment, I decided that what I would do is kind of talk about food pairing basically based on what I've been eating, which is a lot of pizza. And I figured I'd do some wines that go great with pizza. But before I start talking about the pizza and the wine, the pizza and the wine, follow through. Don't get confused. I want to remind everybody we're trying to raise money for charity with this too, which is really important. Please donate to the charities we're supporting today. Particularly, I think about the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund, which is America's premier legal organization fighting for racial justice through litigation, advocacy, public education. The Legal Defense Fund seeks structural changes to expand democracy and eliminate disparities, and achieve racial justice in a society that fulfills the promise of equality for all Americans.
And I think it's a really important cause, and I hope you'll join us and join us and actually contribute to all the causes. Go wild, $10 each. What the hell? Might as well. But enough seriousness. Let's talk about pizza. Pizza and wine. Let's jump back a second and talk about wine pairing. So, wine pairing is kind of weird. People get very, very intense about wine pairing. And, if you go online, you see this, and I've been guilty of this too. It's like, it's a chicken tarragon and a cream sauce, and therefore it requires a Chardonnay of 3 years of age with 70% new oak. And you start to think either, oh my God, if I don't get the right wine, then my friends will shun me at the next dinner party. They'll never call me again. I'll end up dying alone in a ditch somewhere. It's going to be horrible. The other alternative is you look at it and you think, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. Who cares what wine goes with what food? I think the line is somewhere in between, actually, because some wines really do taste better with some foods and some wines don't taste as good. And at the same time, you can way overthink things. And since I knew I was going to do this, I've been here alone, and I've been, baking a lot of sourdough bread and growing a beard and doing all the COVID things that one does. I've had a lot of time to think about pairing, and essentially, thanks to all this quarantining and self-isolation and mulling deeply over things, I had an insight. Actually, I think it's a genius insight. I'm going to say right out here, it's genius. I've come up with a perfect way to determine whether a wine goes with a specific food. And the way you do this, it's simple. It's utterly dead simple. I'm going to show you now the Food and Wine approved, one step, super quick, how to determine whether any specific wine goes with any specific food. It's really simple. All you need is this. A glass, let's say, of Chianti right here. And it goes. And then a piece of pizza. Does the Chianti go with the pizza? Yeah, let's find out. Chianti pizza. Wine. So, 10-15 seconds. Easy peasy. There you go. Simple as can be. You then pour the pizza and wine into an appropriate glass, and you can determine from one sip whether the wine and the food goes together. How simple is that? This is actually an example of the ridiculous extremes to which people go when it comes to pairing wine and food. I don't suggest that you do this. They do say, kids don't try this at home. I will go out on a limb and say, actually, if you have 6-year-olds or 8-year-olds, and you go to them and you say, look, mom's going to blend up her wine with pizza in the blender, the kids will be like, this is amazing, let's do it. So you can entertain children with this as well. But let's get down to actual brass tacks here in terms of what really goes together. I picked 3 wines, and I picked 3 very different wines because I think people get into this rut where they think that only one thing can go with a food. And so I picked 3 quite different wines, all of which I think actually go quite well with pizza. We're not doing a poll, but I do hope that people, after they try them or while they're trying them, will say in the comment section whether they like the pairing, whether they don't like the pairing. Good Lord, I seem to have gotten pizza and wine on my shirt. And so the first one up is the Bisol Geo, and here I'll show you the bottle. So Bisol Geo, I can only reach so far towards this crazy setup I've got here, but this is a sparkling wine. It would be sparkling Prosecco, except there actually is no it'd be sparkling Rosé Prosecco, except there is no category of Rosé Prosecco at the moment. Weirdly, the Italian government, the regulatory council for Prosecco, is actually going to approve sparkling Prosecco Rosé as of January 2021. But until such time, there's only just sparkling rosé wine that happens to come from the same guys who make Prosecco. This is from Bisol, and I think it's nice to know a little bit about the producer. Bisol's kind of fascinating. They started harvesting grapes and making wine in 1542. That's a while back. I mean, it's like, who was president in 1542? Who was? No one. 1642? No one. Who was president in 1742? No one. 1842? John Tyler. And what did he do? No one knows. He was the first, I believe, the first vice president to come into presidential office, when the president at the time, William Henry Harrison, died. This has zip to do with pizza and wine, but we're going to keep going. So Bisol Prosecco, not Prosecco, Bisol Sparkling Rosé from Italy, blend of Merlot and Pinot Noir. I love this wine. I think it's
dry, but not like super bone dry. It's fruity. It's got this beautiful kind of strawberry and sweet citrus. It reminds me of oranges, ripe oranges, and fresh strawberries. And it's been strawberry season, so it's kind of on my mind. You know, it's bubbly, it's crisp. I always think when tasting wine and food together, a couple of things. Taste the wine first, then take a bite of the food. This is not homemade pizza like Justin. This is Brooklyn pizza, in your face, serious Brooklyn. This is Brooklyn all the way. Then take a sip of the wine. Now, normally, when you taste wine, you typically swirl wine around in your mouth. I think when you have food in your mouth at the same time, it's a little weird and kind of vaguely gross. So you end up with something like that. So I'll taste them together. Now, I picked pepperoni because there is no more classic thing than pepperoni pizza. I think these two work really well together. The pizza actually, sparkling wines tend to have a little bit of acidity, of tartness to them. And what salt does, and salt is a characteristic. There's no pizza in the world that doesn't have salt. And if there is a pizza with salt, it doesn't taste good. So when you taste it, that salt, the way it works in your mouth is it actually kind of pulls back on the acidity of the wine. It lets the fruit come forward a little bit. It gives the wine a little more generosity. I mean, when you talk about pizza and you're talking about pairing pizza and wine, you're looking at, you know, really just a couple of things here. And normally when you eat food, you don't take it apart unless in fact you are 6 or 8. But you know, you've got some bread basically, and bread goes with everything. You've got some nice mozzarella cheese, a little bit creamy, definitely a little bit salty. You got pepperoni, a little bit fatty, and you got pepperoni, which is a little spicy and also has a fair amount of fat. The other thing this wine does, acidity plays well with that. They balance each other out, and bubbles play well with that. Fat coats your mouth when you take a bite of something, and then when you take a sip of something with bubbles, it's almost like, you know, it's almost like the old scrubbing bubbles commercial. It kind of cleans your palate, prepares you for the next sip. But I don't want to run out of time on any of these wines, so let's move to wine number 2. But if you like that, if you love that wine, let us know. Wine number 2. So I went bouncing across the ocean for wine number 2. Wine number 2 is the Ponzi Tavola Pinot Noir. Try and reach in there. It's hard to see, but you know, Ponzi Tavola. Ponzi is, they didn't start in 1542. I can tell you that because they're in Oregon. But they did start kind of right at the start of the Willamette Valley wine explosion. You know, Pinot Noir was first planted in Willamette in the late 60s. Ponzi started in 1970s. Their 50th anniversary this year. So they're really at the beginning of what we think of as Oregon Pinot Noir production. There just wasn't much sold before then. And I think they're a wonderful producer. Louisa Ponzi, who is the daughter of the founders, who's the winemaker, is a terrific winemaker. This is one of those rarities, which is a Pinot Noir that doesn't cost a ton, but tastes like Pinot Noir and really feels like the character of that grape. You take a sip, and it's that beautiful Pinot Noir fruit that's got kind of like black cherry, a little bit of currant, and not like massive or super rich, but just so pure in flavor. And then underlying it's a little bit of peppery spice and a little bit of sort of like herbal notes. And that's Pinot Noir is always this balancing act, to my mind, when it's good, of fruit characters and savory characters. You've got the fruitiness, the kind of berry fruitiness, and you've got the savoriness next to it. And that works really well. Oregon's particularly good at that. Recent vintages in Oregon have been really good at that. But the question is, of course, does it go with pizza? So take a sip of the Pinot Noir. Take a bite of pizza. It's different. You can tell it kind of amplifies different things than the sparkling wine did. But then when you take a sip of the wine after the pizza, the fruit in that wine really pops. It really kind of appears, you know, even more intensely than it was before. Saltiness in wine also has a habit of, again, it pulls back on acidity. It brings fruit forward. And I think the spiciness of the pepperoni really plays well with that kind of light note of pepperiness in the Pinot. It's just kind of goes well together. You know, as I said, you can overthink this stuff like crazy if you want, but basically pairing wine and food. You know, when you start to get serious about it is when you start to not have fun.
the whole point is that it should be fun. You should have, play around with it. If you're going to have a dinner party, open a couple bottles, when you're thinking about your menu, taste them with a couple of things, and then figure out what you're going to pour after that. I always say to people when they're getting married, because I get a lot of people asking me, about wine advice when they're getting married, like sit down with your spouse to be, or honestly with whoever you want to sit down with. It's your life, do it how you like. And taste get 6 different wines that are all in the price point that you want to buy for your wedding reception or whatever, and taste them all together and have fun tasting them together and the differences, and talk about which one you'd like to pour for people. And same thing with food pairing. Talk to your spouse when you're going to throw a dinner party and say, let's taste a couple of things, see which would be fun. I think that works really well with pizza too. But then let's go to Chianti, because there's another rule with food, but not a rule. I'd say a suggestion, because I don't like rules when it comes to wine and food pairing. There's another suggestion with wine and food, which is it was kind of like what grows together goes together. And the idea behind it is that the wines of a region play really well with the food of a region. Now, pizza, and particularly this is like sort of Neapolitan style pizza. Obviously, that's not Tuscany, because Tuscany is central Italy, and this is southern Italy. But they're more akin to each other than they are with, let's say, Houston, where I grew up. It's so graceful, right? When you take a sip of that Chianti, the first thing you notice is it bites down on your tongue. It's got tannins. It's got real tannic structure. And it goes really, usually with the fat in the piece of tannins of fat work really well together. And it's a textural thing, because texture plays a lot of role too in why wines and foods work well together. And I personally, of these 3, I actually like the Chianti best with the pizza. I don't know if that's a romantic thing or a kind of, sort of metaphorical thing, or if it's just because I think the tannins and the fat work beautifully well together, or if it's just that I think that's the Tenuta di Nozzole is just a beautiful bottle of Chianti too. So there's that. Now, I know you're all sitting there thinking, yeah, he blended up this stuff and he was never actually going to drink it. But you know what? Here's to you. Yeah, that's just revolting. Don't ever do that. It's like, maybe to entertain your kids, but that doesn't tell you a damn thing about whether wine and food goes together. It's just gross. It's like bits of bread floating in alcoholic slime. Okay, I've proved that science is not the answer here. I know that Justin, I know that we wanted to take a couple of questions, or I know you had something to say to me, so I want to hear what it is.
Yes, Rick. We had tons and tons of questions coming in.
You've got a blender there, right?
Throw. Okay, a couple questions. One is from Anthony in New Jersey, and he's asking what other foods pair well with these wines, which I think is a really great question.
Yeah, for instance, I think so sparkling wine, dry sparkling wine goes well with everything, but I think with this you could do something. You could even do something like a very lean pork dish with it. I wouldn't do something that was super creamy or super fatty. I think it'd kind of run over the wine a little bit. You could also do. This would be beautiful with light fish with a little bit of a sole, something like that. It could be good with a light tomato sauce on calamari or something. The Pinot Noir, Pinot's a great sort of all-purpose hitter, in that it's one of the wines that sommeliers go to when you've got 4 different things at a table, because it's got fruit, but it's got medium body and it doesn't have giant tannins. So you can, I cooked last night. I made a salmon in a red wine sauce with morel mushrooms, and this Pinot Noir can work perfectly with that. Salmon's a fatty fish, so it can stand up to a red wine. That, and mushrooms, honestly, in Pinot Noir, just by nature, are great. And then Chianti, I don't want to be essentialized and say it's always going to be Italian food, but I love we have a recipe on the Food and Wine site for Andrew Carmelini's lamb ragu, which I make all the time. And lamb ragu on pappardelle with this stuff would be killer. Would be just amazingly good.
I love that you make that recipe, because I make that recipe a lot, and I actually keep it in the freezer frozen.
Yeah.
Okay, one more question. It's going to be a quick one.
Yeah.
And I love this question because I get asked this a lot, and I know a lot of people familiar with wine know the answer, but a lot of people still don't. So Allie from New York is asking, what's the difference between Prosecco and Champagne?
The difference between Prosecco and Champagne. So straight up, 2 things. First off, location.
A lot with wine, it's like real estate: location, location, location. Champagne comes from the Champagne region in north central France. Prosecco comes from the Veneto, it kind of extends, around there, and so it's from northern Italy. Prosecco, which, as I explained, this is made with the Glera grape. Champagne is made with a mixture of Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and Pinot Meunier, and the process of making this is slightly different too. Champagne, the bubbles come from champagne re-fermenting in the bottle, and with Prosecco, it's a process called the Charmat method, which uses a kind of larger scale pressurized tank. And that's your super quick, different.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I love how I'm I think I know the answer to this, and then I still learn something new. Ray, that was
and then
my time. So Ray, we're gonna hold on the question. So do you want to go ahead and introduce our next guest?
Absolutely. So it's really my pleasure to introduce our next two cooking segments. So the first one is from J.J. Johnson, an incredibly cool guy who I've met a couple times. James Beard Foundation Book Award-winning chef and author, and best known for his kind of expertise and work with the cuisine of the African diaspora. He does amazing stuff in that context. And then he's going to be followed by Stephanie Izard. Many of you will know her as the first woman chef to win Bravo's Top Chef. Also a wonderful person, seen her a number of times in Aspen when we actually do this event in Aspen. And so without further delay, allow me to turn things over to JJ.
Hey, what's up? You're here in my house, Food and Wine, Aspen at home. I wish I was in Aspen with you, but I'm gonna show you how to make these delicious shrimp burgers. You're gonna chop and dice. You're gonna follow along my recipe. It's super easy. And when you show up at your next barbecue 6 feet away with your friends and family, everybody's gonna be asking you to bring some more. Now, if you wanna show off your knife skills, you just take your shrimp and you can just dice it up like me. I have a nice sharp knife here. And I grew up in the summertime with my uncle eating all type of seafood. Shrimp and crab was one of my favorites. So I wanted to show you, this love that I have for shrimp and how if you don't want to eat a traditional burger, you can eat a shrimp burger. It's just as good, just as meaty, but even more delicious. And that's what I'm all about. I'm all about showing you what delicious is all about. So I'm dicing up my 2 pounds of shrimp. As you can see, this is super, super easy, right? Super easy. So I'm dicing this up first. I'm trying to get it as fine as possible in some chunks. And the great thing about shrimp is that shrimp is its own binder. So it will bind nicely together. The shrimp will come together because it has good fat content. You can make it into a mousse, so it'll come together really nice. The egg and the panko is just to keep it nice and firm. So I have that going. Let me throw this bowl by my sink. I have my big bowl here. I'm gonna take my shrimp, throw it into the bowl. I have my jalapeno. I'll cut up the bottom, and it's okay. You can use the same cutting board area because everything is going in the bowl together. I'm cutting the jalapeno. You might get a little seeds in there. It's okay. It means it's going to be a little bit more spicy. That's all the seeds are. So I'm going to cut these down really small dice. That's what I want. I want a nice small dice. That's what it's all about. You could do this with your friends and your family. You could bring them over. Some people can dice up the vegetables while you cut the shrimp. And I'm going to dice this up. So all of this dish is going to give you some sweetness, some heat. And it's going to elevate the palate. People are really going to be calling you for these shrimp burgers. If you don't want to call them the JJ burgers, you can call them your burgers. I know Mary. I know you're out there, Mary. It's okay. You can call them the Mary burgers. That's what it's all about when you get a recipe. You have to own the recipe. So I have my celery here. I'm going to cut my celery down on the side here. I think this is a trick. Let me show you. So the celery runs like this. Right, it runs like this. And you're like, how can I get the perfect square? Just come down the middle, then come down the middle again, and come down the middle again, and you'll get it in a nice rectangle, and then you'll get those perfect squares. So, came down the middle here, roll these over, cut my celery. I'm trying to get it as small as possible. I could throw it in a food processor, but I wanted to show you all that you don't have to have a food processor to make this work. I'm going to throw that in my bowl. This bowl's smelling good already with the celery and the jalapeno. I'm going to take some Worcestershire sauce. I'm going to throw my Worcestershire in there, right? I'm going to take a little soy sauce, gluten-free, low-sodium soy sauce. I'm going to throw that in there. You smell that? Come on, look. Come on, look. Look how beautiful that is. We're going to get that mixing. But before we do that, I'm going to add in a little lemon zest. So, lemon zest, I got my zester here. And if you don't have a zester, it's okay. You can use your cheese grater. That fine side on the cheese grater, you can use that. If you don't have a cheese grater, you can use a peeler. Peel it back, dice it up, and throw it in there. So it's okay. You can always get zest. So, I have my lemon zest in there. I'm going to take 2 eggs and crack those 2 eggs. Get those eggs in there, whole egg and egg yolk. Really nice farm eggs. I'm all about the farm egg, the heirloom, the pasture eggs. And then the final touch is some herbs. For me, it's all about the herbs when you're cooking. The herbs give you that nice, herbaceous, that pop in your mouth that you're missing. Fresh herbs. You can carry fresh herbs. You can keep them in your fridge. You can hit me offline and I'll tell you how to keep herbs for a little bit longer in your fridge so they don't go bad. And if they do go bad, how you can dry them out and even keep them longer so you are getting the best flavor. So I'm just going to roll these up. And if we were in Aspen, yeah, you can. I know you guys roll some other things in Aspen, but we're just going to roll these herbs. We'll slice these super fine. Right? Even the stems give good flavor. Can you see that? Look, can you see that? And if it's not fine enough, you keep chopping, right? So I got some big leaves in there. Chop that up. Make it super fine. Okay. I got my parsley. Throw that in there. Okay. Some sea salt. I always put the salt in my hand. I want to feel it. I want to see it. And a little sea salt, about a tablespoon. A little cracked black pepper. All about the pepper meal. You gotta have the right utensils, the right equipment to get the best flavor. Now we're gonna take a simple fork. I know you all have a fork in your house. Not a whisk. We're gonna take a fork and we're gonna mix this. We're gonna bring this together, right? And I'm gonna mix this all together really nice before I add in the panko. So when everything, do you smell that? Oh, it smells good. I smell the sweetness. I smell that soy. I smell that Worcestershire. For some reason, Worcestershire makes everything taste good. So, got that all in there. It's nice and mixed. The shrimp is nice. Oh, it's going to be beautiful on a nice sunny day like today. Okay? Now I'm going to take my panko. Add my panko in. Go back to my fork. Mix my fork. I'm looking for it all to come together. And I don't want it to be too bready. I don't want it to be too wet. I want the consistency of a crab cake. We all know what a crab cake looks like, tastes like, and feels nice and fluffy. That's what I want. Add a little bit more panko. Now it came together nice. Look at this. Look at this, everybody. You get down here, get my sheet tray, put it right here on the edge of my cutting board, turn on my cast iron skillet to medium heat, because I don't want it too hot, I don't want it too smoky. Pat this patty. Pat it. If I would say to my kids, I would say pat it and bake it and mark it with a T. Because T is for my daughter Taya, and it'd be for Taya and me. That's what we said. So I got my nice burger here. Looking really good. Small, it's like a slider. I don't want it too big. I don't want it too small. I want it really nice. Then I would roll this one. I would say roll it and pat it and mark it with an M because I have twins. for my main man Miles. For Miles and me. Okay. And I'm put that right there. And then this last one will be for my wife. We're gonna market hers with an M2 because of Mia. I'm gonna make three burgers here because they're all gonna fit on my cast iron skillet. Nice, really nice. Let me go wash my hands. Okay. While that's heating up, I didn't throw any oil on there yet. I'm gonna put oil right here. Right on top of my cast iron skillet, some grapeseed oil. I'm a big fan of grapeseed oil because it doesn't fight the flavor. It doesn't fight the flavor that you've been building. Plus, it has a really nice smoke point. It doesn't get too smoky. Get my spatula. So, a little sizzle there. Sizzle there. I'm going to turn the heat up just a little bit. I want it a little bit hotter. And another little sizzle there. Oh yeah, it's going to be good, everybody. It's going to be great. So this is going. So I want to get nice golden brown on each side. I already have my potato buns ready here. I had 4, but I'm only going to do 3. And the great thing about the potato bun is you don't need to toast it. It's nice, it's fluffy, it's airy. So I'm just gonna open these up. And if you wanna kick this up a notch, you can make your own spread to go with this. So you can make an amazing spread that's gonna go on these shrimp burgers. That could be your own. It could be, some type of aioli or a spread that has some spice in it. It could be just plain mayo. I'm gonna throw in some nice lettuce that I got out of my farmer's market box that we're gonna put on the top for a little bit of crunch and refreshing. But you can do anything. Ooh, that smells beautiful. That smells good. I just want a golden brown. Look at this one right here. This is getting nice and golden brown. So you just want to get a golden brown on each side. Make sure the shrimp is cooked through, nice and light. Wait till I show you this. Wait till you see this. Oh, this is good. I wish you were here with me. Oh, look at this one. Oh, man. And you can get this, I have a bunch of recipes in my cookbook called Between Harlem and Heaven. I won a James Beard Award last year. 100 recipes, Afro-Asian American cooking. This is where this recipe comes from. We call it the Gullah shrimp burger from South Carolina, big area around seafood. You learn about the rich history there. You can also see me at my restaurant called Field Trip. It's a rice bowl shop between 115th and 116th in Harlem in New York City. But I want you to make this at your next barbecue. It's going to be so good. Everybody's going to love you. Super simple. You saw that. We're doing it. We're doing it together. I hope you're cooking along. Okay. Oh, this one is ready. This one looks great. Let me show you what I mean golden brown. Look at that golden brown right there. Ooh, this is about 4 minutes on each side. Smells so good. I think I make my uncle proud making these shrimp burgers here. Okay, now place the shrimp right on my bun, a little slider. Place this one right on top here. I'll let that one cook a little longer. I got my lettuce. And this is how you should put it out. That's all you do. This one's ready. Turn my skillet off. Look at these babies here. Look at this. Look at these babies. Let me take a bite. Let's see how good it is. Oh my goodness. This is explosion. This is delicious. It's a party in my mouth. I wish I could throw one of these burgers to the first woman who won Top Chef, Stephanie Izard, who made Girl and the Goat a household name.
Thanks so much. I'm so excited to be part of this amazing fundraising effort. I want to take a minute to tell you a little bit about Wholesome Wave, an organization started by my good friend Michelle Nishan over 13 years ago. So far has helped over 1 million families get the fruit and vegetables that they need to stay healthy, which of course is so important during this pandemic of COVID-19, making sure everybody has the fruits and vegetables they need to fight off illness. If you haven't donated yet, please click the donate button to support Wholesome Wave or another one of the organizations that we're raising money for. Okay, let's get cooking. So during the pandemic, something that we have done in our restaurants is kind of pivot and start doing different things that we weren't doing before. One thing I wanted to tell you about is that we're doing meal kits. This is a bag of sausage that you too could have come to your home through Goldbelly. We started doing meal kits in the city so folks could cook at home. It's so important if you're not comfortable going out to just do more cooking at home, and also it's kind of fun. I know myself during quarantine did more cooking at home than I think I've done in the past 5 years combined. So we have a new kit that's coming out where you can get 5 different house-made sausages all in one box, and we're gonna use the chorizo in this recipe. It's just something sort of fun and different to do with it. So in front of me I have a bunch of different ingredients for making crumpets. It's a recipe that we've had on our menu at Little Goat since we opened, at Girl and Goat actually for the past 10 years. We just had our 10-year birthday. So first we start off, we have some all-purpose flour, dumping in some cake flour. Meanwhile, I have a little bit of dried yeast that we're putting into the water. We would let this sit for a few minutes until it gets all bubbly, but we're just gonna kind of pretend that that happened. We would mix this in. Gonna mix in some sugar, gonna mix in some salt, gonna mix in some olive oil, yada yada. Through the magic of television, look what I've got over here. Some crumpet batter. This actually, after you mix it all together, it sits out for about 2 hours until the yeast does its thing and makes this amazing batter. It's like fluffy, you can kind of smell, I wish you had smell-o-vision. I can smell the yeastiness on it. So after about an hour and a half, you put it into the fridge until you're ready to use it. I made this over quarantine. I kept making things that I could make for my 4-year-old for breakfast. Left it in the fridge for like 4 or 5 days. It kept getting better and better, almost like the way that a sourdough comes together. It just, each day had a little more sour notes to it, got bigger and fluffier. So you can make it, keep it in your fridge, have crumpets every day for a while. Why not? All right, so I've got a pan over here that's been getting hot. And I would say use a nonstick, or if you have something that's a little bit of a firmer, sort of a heavier bottomed pan for this, something nice and flat. You're gonna put in some oil. If you have bacon fat around, use bacon fat around. If you have some clarified butter, that works really well too. But regular butter is just gonna burn before your crumpets get a chance to cook. So I'm gonna take a scoop and we're just gonna put that, ooh, you can see it sizzling. Jeff, our cameraman's doing a real good job showing you guys the close-ups. We're gonna put in one more. Look at that. Nice. And one more. There we go. So with the crumpets, the important part is making sure that you have a nice hot pan and that you have enough fat. That's what the crumpets need to get all fluffy and yummy and delicious. They're gonna crisp up on one side and then flip over. But if you see, if you look close, let's see if we can get in closer. You see all these tiny little bubbles that are starting to form, and it's cooking right around the edges. So once it gets like where you can see the brown on one side, then you want to just flip it over. Flip it over. Flip it over. Ooh, those look good. The tricky bit is that they're sort of big and they're fluffing up, which is great. The heat's helping them sort of expand like that. But if you leave it on the stove at too high of a heat, you might end up burning them on one side. Not gonna lie, I burnt the first ones that I did a few minutes ago. So I had to do it twice. It happens to even, I wouldn't say the best of us, it happens to even me. I've got some down here in my fake oven underneath the stove that I cooked a little bit ago. These came out really great. They're nice and crispy on the outside. They're fluffy on the inside, have some great color. And they kind of soak up some of that oil. So if you do have ghee or bacon fat, just think about the bacon fat would get all soaked up. Yum, yum. But whatever you're in the mood for. Then we're gonna move over here and use our sausage. So I'm gonna get a pan going with just a tiny splash of oil. It's super nice and hot. And I've got about 8 ounces of the chorizo. This is something that I made for a charity event years and years ago. We were making crumpets, we were making chorizo. We were just gonna put maple syrup on top of it. And for some reason, while I was cooking it, I thought to myself, why don't I put these together and make like a chorizo and maple syrup? So something when cooking sausage, Oh, I can smell this all coming off, all the flavor coming out of this chorizo. Yum. If you don't buy our kit, well, you should, but if you don't, and you have your favorite chorizo from the store, go ahead and grab that. You can even get something that's already cased, just take it out of the casing and throw it in here. But something when you're cooking sausage in general is that you want to make sure you have a nice hot pan. I feel like I have to teach this to my cooks over and over again. If you overflow your pan with like a whole bunch of sausage and it's not hot, you're just going to leach out all of the fat. And the way that someone that's crafted the sausage has taken time to emulsify it. So the meat and the fat have all come together by emulsifying it. If you go ahead and put it in a cold pan, you took all that work away. And that's when you end up with like dry tasting sausage. So if you've ever had sausage patty or something, it tasted kind of grainy and dry. It just means it wasn't emulsified. So the liquid flavoring wasn't brought into the sausage enough. But our sausage has been handcrafted by Jan Rickerel, who's one of our CDCs around the restaurant. And he always makes sure that it's nice and emulsified. So to keep its integrity, just make sure you have a nice hot pan. It kind of locks in all the fat, locks in all the flavor. And you just want to let this go until it's nice and brown. I can smell that. You could use a different kind of sausage too. The reason we're using chorizo is because we're going to have this sort of nice spicy heat from the chorizo. All of the fat that is coming out a little bit is just this sort of red spicy happening. I wouldn't call this a super spicy chorizo by any means. It's kind of on the milder side. We actually use it at our Peruvian restaurant Cabra. So it's a Peruvian style chorizo, so it's not sort of as bright red as more of a Mexican style, but super full of flavor. All right, so once we've got that nice and brown, now we're gonna add in the maple syrup. So I'm gonna turn that down a little bit, and we're gonna dump in the maple syrup. So there we go. Yum. And maple syrup's real thick already, so we're not trying to necessarily reduce this at all. We just wanna let the flavor infuse. So chorizo, chorizo, chorizo. Then I'm gonna add in a little bit of balsamic vinegar. So we've got the little bit of spice from the chorizo. We've got a little bit of like nice acidity from the balsamic vinegar. And then I'm gonna add in some Dijon mustard. A couple of the things that I've probably used in so many sauces over the years. I think that if you go into every chef's pantry, they have some things that they use over and over and over again. Dijon mustard being one of mine. I'm surprised I'm not putting fish sauce in this because that would be another one of mine, but I don't know if I want crumpets with chorizo. Well, it probably would be good actually. I was sitting here thinking that, fish sauce would probably be tasty. So what you would want to do at home is take this and let it infuse for a few minutes so that the chorizo actually starts to almost candy just a little bit in the maple syrup, and the maple syrup starts to taste like chorizo. So even if you didn't have a bite of chorizo in your bite, the maple syrup would taste like chorizo. Does that make sense? I didn't have one swapped out to have the magic of television, so we're just gonna have to use our imaginations. We've got our crumpets. Ooh, they're so hot. They're not really. I made these ones earlier. We're gonna put them next to each other. There we go. 3 little crumpets. And if you do make the batter and you have some left in your fridge, another really fun idea with the crumpets, you could put like everything spice on one side when you're cooking them, flip it over, and it's really good with cream cheese or really just with anything. We serve that with cream cheese and some smoked salmon at the restaurant, which is one of my favorite things. We also serve these with our goat liver mousse or pâtés. They're just really tasty. I think it's a little different than, I can't say that I've ever been to London and had crumpets. It's just something I've read about, and I feel like these are a little bit different. When you buy them in a package in the store, they're not gonna have that sort of fluffy crunchiness that these have. All right, we're gonna put some of this chorizo maple syrup right over the top. Yum, a little chorizo for everyone. Full of yummy flavor. But the crumpets are so nice and crispy, they're just kind of like letting it go around. And then for something nice, a little bit tart, a little bit sweet, we've got some blueberries. And that's it. And you could use blueberries, strawberries, blackberries, even with peaches coming in season. If you have like the perfect ripe ones, that could be great. I was just reading about one of our farmers getting peaches in season. So whatever you've got around, cherries would be really great too. It's just about the balance on this dish. So we've got our nice fluffy crumpets, our sort of meaty and sweet and a little bit acidic maple syrup. And then just to cut through all of that, we have like a nice fresh fruit. A well-balanced meal. Thank you so much for having me, Food and Wine. It's really been amazing to take part. Make sure you click on and donate to Wholesome Wave or one of the other amazing organizations that we're featuring.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. I can't wait until I get back to Chicago and get to eat your food in real life. All of that looks so incredible. Okay, everyone, I just want to give you a quick update on where we're at. We have raised almost $19,000. I'm going to be super positive and say that's just shy of $20,000, which is almost halfway to our goal. That's really good, but I think we could do better. So please, everyone, if you can give $1, if you can give $10, if you can give $1,000, please just click that little donate button and contribute to these very worthwhile organizations. A lot of them are really still providing all of the work that they would outside of a pandemic. They're doing it during one, so they can really use our help right now. Okay, Stephanie, looking at Stephanie's food and realizing how well it pairs with beer. Beer is perfect because we have a beer pairing coming up. We've covered our food, we've covered our wine, and it should be noted that, believe it or not, in the last year, since the pandemic began, beer sales in household beer sales have jumped 20% since last year, which is pretty crazy. And knowing this, here at Food and Wine, we decided we needed to give it some love during today's event. And so to do that honor, we have Garrett Oliver. He is super, super talented. He is a James Beard Award winner. He's a cookbook author. He is the brewmaster at Brooklyn Brewery, which I love. And he has an incredible pairing for us today. So I'm going to turn it over to Garrett, but I'm also going to give Garrett the honor of introducing our last cooking segment and our very special guest. I'm not going to say who it is, although I think you know who it is. And with that, I'm going to send it right over to Garrett.
Thanks, Justin. Hey, I just want to give a shout out here to Southern Smoke Foundation. They support those of us in the food and beverage industry who've been hit by crisis, especially COVID right now. And since the COVID crisis hit, they've given away over $2 million in aid to people in need in our industry. Best Chef Chris Shepard started it, doing great work. Thanks so much, Chris. And what we got here, beer, cheese, might be a little bit of a surprise to most of you. I know that you think that wine is actually the best pairing for cheese, but if you were to read a lot of wine books, what you would see is that a lot of wine writers will actually tell you that beer works best. So you might wonder why that is. Well, you got a much greater range of flavor going on here. I can do smoke flavors, I can do caramelized flavors, I can do chocolate flavors, I can have beers that taste like bananas and cloves and bubblegum and smoke. I can do kind of everything. That's why when I do beer versus wine with cheese, I always beat the sommeliers. But we don't want to talk about that right now. Let's get into our beer. Now, here we're not talking about your regular mass market industrial beer, we're talking about serious beer. And so we have 4 different types here, and we've got our 4 cheeses. Now I'm going to be putting my hands all over these cheeses because frankly, this is food and it tastes good and I'm going to be eating some of it. Our first beer is called Boulevard Tank 7. Now this is within the Belgian Saison style. Saisons are farmhouse ales, they're dry, they're bright, they're pretty happy. The granddaddy of all of them is called Saison Dupont. I went looking for it today, didn't find it, but actually Tank 7 is a really nice version. And our cheese today is going to be Vermont Chèvre. So this is a straight up goat cheese of the classical type. It even comes in a little log like the ones you'll see at the supermarket. But what you're going to look for in your area is the freshest goat cheese that you can get in your local area. So let's check these out. No twists off here. And we have our beautiful Saison. Whenever you're doing an actual tasting, you want to get your nose in the glass. Check it out. See the foam. See what we got going on. They always talk about the first beer of the day. And it's actually true. First beer of the day always tastes really good regardless. This is a dry type of beer, so you're not going to see, you see a lot of fruitiness, you're not going to see a lot of caramel or anything of that sort. And what you want in a fresh goat cheese is you want to see, look at the way this kind of breaks. It should have a cakiness and break apart like this. You don't want a goat cheese that comes onto your fingers like a paste. You know, it shouldn't be like peanut butter and spreadable like that. It should have a little bit of a cake to it. And that means the beer is going to just work its way through. You have a beautiful acidity. And bang, citrus, lime, fruit. One of the things about beer that makes it work so well is that you've got carbonation. Carbonation always helps because it actually helps you physically break up the fat that's laying across your tongue. Wine, sometimes it comes in and it bounces off, gotta say. So bubbles are good, scrubbing bubbles, they do a lot for you. So goat cheese and Saison is a classical pairing. Now, this is one you might not see coming, especially at this point in a tasting. How are you gonna end up going straight into brown ale, a dark beer, and we're gonna follow it actually with a pale beer. This, for some people, is gonna be a bit of a surprise. This is a bit of a classic. This is called Brooklyn Brown Ale. Happens to be by my brewery. So yes, I am biased. It's really good though. The color that you're seeing here comes from caramelized malts. They've been roasted, they've been caramelized, and so this beer smells like chocolate and caramel. And you're gonna find a little bit of sweetness there on the palate. It is, of course, delicious. Great with burgers, great with steaks, great with cheese. So, our cheese today is called Osao Irati. This is a Pyrenees sheep's milk cheese. And if you happen to have found some yourself, I want you to break it open. And what you're gonna see inside is kind of a nice rocky looking crumb, the paste, and then smell it. Because what you're smelling there, you might actually recognize. If you ever got caught in a rainstorm wearing a wool coat, you're gonna recognize this particular aroma and flavor. It is the smell of lanolin, and lanolin is the oil in sheep, which ends up in wool, also ends up in sheep's milk. And it gives you this kind of nutty characteristic, which it turns out works really, really well with the caramel you've got going on here. So let's taste those two. This is also known as Osao VA. Some of you might have found Vermont Shepherd instead, which of course is made in Vermont, which is a type of homage to this cheese. Both of them are actually really good. And here, Shazam. The cheese is the cheese version of the beer, and the beer is the beer version of the cheese. Are you still with me? These two things look like they were meant to go together in the first place. And when you're eating this combination, it is difficult to even remember how you ever thought a wine was going to work here. I actually do know a few. If you're a wine guy, you want to do Vin Jaune, but you're going to do better if you go with this beer. Man, that really is very good. All right, well, you might find this a bit of a surprise, unless you are a beer geek, to see a serious beer these days in a can. These days, all the cool kids are in cans. This is the way things are looking in our modern world. A lot more room to put some graphics. This is by Sierra Nevada Brewing Company out in Chico, California. They're good pals and competitors, and good competitors too. And this style of beer is one of the older styles you're going to see out there, called originally India Pale Ale or IPA. Now, you see IPA everywhere these days. It's almost like the Chardonnay of the craft beer world. IPA originally was a beer that was made in England to be shipped to the colonies in India and around the world. Made very dry, very strong, big hop flavor and aroma. The hop gives you bitterness in beer, but also gives you flavors and aromas, and also acts as a preservative. So that's one reason why hops became the main flavoring in beer, the main spice that we add, if you like, is because it helped the beer last a long time. And so as you were shipping beer around the world, you wanted a lot of hops, and you could smell those here. Big, floral, really tropical. This beer is called Hazy Little Thing. And it used to be that when you had an IPA, IPA was not hazy. It used to be clear. But these days, I don't know, all these kids, they got all kinds of new ideas. They like the beers to be hazy and to have this visual to them. I don't mind as long as the beer tastes good. And that does taste good. A little bit of what we call the dank characteristic. might remind you of certain illegal plants. They love that out in California, that flavor and aroma. Sometimes also referred to as allium, garlic, chives, onions, a little bit of that in the background. Our cheese today is called Lincolnshire Poacher. Now, what I was looking for was actually Montgomery's cheddar, but this is a very similar cheese made by a similar process, but what you're looking for is like a serious farmhouse cheddar, which Lincolnshire Poacher pretty much is. If you look at it carefully, you will notice a certain texture, and this is from the cheddaring process, where you basically take that cooked curd and you run wires through it and you kind of chop it up and then press all the way out of it. Sometimes, if you look at the rockiness of the edge going on there, it should have a paste which has a very rocky crumb to it. Smells beautiful, smells like grass. That is absolutely gorgeous. It's one of the best out there. Quicks is another really good one from England. Of course, cheddar is originally from England, so you really want to find the best you can. And fortunately, Lincolnshire Poacher, Quicks, Montgomery's are all pretty widely available. This is kind of like a tango, if you like, of a pairing. It's a little bit tough, but it's just fine. They're both sharp. They're both leading in the same direction. Brightness, fruitiness. Boom. Sometimes a little bit of crunch. You get some crystals. The salt, as the water leaves the cheese, the salt starts to condense into crystals and gives you this nice little burst of character in there. You should think about doing this yourself. We're all on Zoom and whatever else these days. And if you want to get together with your friends, everybody can go out in their separate ways, buy their cheeses, buy their beers, and let's face it, each of these costs like $2. So get together online and have yourself a beer and cheese tasting, a little party going on. I got a little party going on right in front of me here. And then finally, this is one of our most beloved beers. It's called Brooklyn Black Chocolate Stout. This originally came out in 1994. It was actually the first beer I ever made for Brooklyn Brewery back in those old days. And this is an Imperial Stout. Imperial Stout is a style of beer that was originally made for one person, and that person was Catherine the Great, Empress of all the Russias. So she loved her stout beer, but on the long voyage, it was spoiling sometimes. They made a special version just for her. This is about 10%. And so this is a big bruiser of a beer, and it's here to work with what some people call the king of all cheeses. For some people, that's Parmigiano Reggiano, and for other people, it's Stilton. Now, people have all these weird ideas about stout. Some people think that stout is the beer that was scraped from the bottom of the barrel or something like that. No! Where this flavor comes from, where this aroma comes from, where this chocolatiness comes from, it's all roast. So different gradations of roast, and there is a chocolate roast of malt that gives you these big chocolatey flavors. Chocolate, coffee, espresso, beautiful. So here's the thing. If you look carefully at our Stilton, Colston Bassett, you might notice, going this way, some streaks. So that's where the air holes were punched in, and it is the air that allows the flowering, if you like, of the mold spores. When you start off this cheese, it's actually white, and then the whole thing starts to become blue after it's pierced. And it is the air that actually allows that to happen. So you got this beautiful funkiness of the Stilton, and you have the chocolatiness of the beer, and you might not think that these two things are gonna work together, but it turns out that the beer brings out this chocolate character in the cheese that you might not otherwise even have seen. Wow, it's great cheese. And that's maybe the best pairing of all. That is like a chocolate ice cream sundae with some wonderful cheesy component. If that sounds horrible to you, trust me that it's not. Beer and cheese belong together. They came from the farm. These were all part of a household economy, usually run by the women of the household who were making all the beer and making all the cheese, and they were making all the bread, and this was all one little ecosystem. And so there's a reason why all this stuff works together. And everything here on this table, okay, the cheeses are a little bit expensive, the beers aren't. So you can have a pretty good time for not all that much money if you want to. You go to, I don't know, pick your favorite top-end retailer and ask them what they've got. So I'm pretty sure by now that I've sent you in the right direction, that you can have yourself a pretty good time with some beer and cheese. And now it's my pleasure to bring back to the classic for the second time, by very popular demand, somebody that we all know everywhere in the world. She's a TV personality, she's a businesswoman, she's an innovator, she's doing all kinds of new stuff in e-commerce, she's an author. There's nothing more you can say about this person who we all know, and she's everything about the home, which is where we all are right now. So we need her more than ever. Thank you and welcome, Martha Stewart.
Well, thank you so much for that very lovely introduction. I thought I would show you two of my favorite summertime things to eat. One is a dessert and one is a drink. And these have become very popular in my house during COVID-19. We're not so happy with what's been going on, as I'm sure most of you are not either. But if you make special treats like the two I'm going to show you, I think you'll be very popular in your household. The first is something that we featured in our summer issue of our magazine, Martha Stewart Living. This gorgeous magazine, Summer Splendor, and it is a peach pavlova. Now, I always love pavlovas, which is a meringue base. And actually, a friend of mine sent me this picture, a picture of this picture, and said Cézanne couldn't have painted it any better. And I totally agree with her. But this is a meringue, a brown sugar meringue, topped with poached peaches, fragrant poached peaches. And it's up to you whether you want to gild the lily and add a little bit of whipped cream on top of that. The meringue is very easy. I'm beating it. It's almost done. Silky smooth, thick and rich. It is 4 egg whites, 3/4 of a cup of light brown sugar, a pinch of salt, 1/4 of a cup of sugar, and 1 teaspoon of white vinegar. That stabilizes the meringue, and a teaspoon of fragrant vanilla. And I think it's almost done. The reason I beat it up ahead of time was, oh yes, it's done. Stiff peaks, look at those beautiful peaks. Because it makes so much noise and it takes up too much time. So that's why I've already beaten it. But this makes a beautiful, beautiful meringue. And extra tasty. So that can be put on a circle. Trace a circle of about 8 inches in diameter. And you want to spread the meringue in a nice thick layer right in that circle. And this will be cooked for 1.25 hours in a 300-degree oven. Just flatten it and take it to the round mark on your paper. Now this is an outline, and don't use your lead pencil on the side that you're cooking on. Always trace on the underside of your parchment. This is parchment paper. You could do this on aluminum foil if you like. Meringue does not stick to aluminum foil and it does not stick to the parchment. But you see how pretty that looks? It's random, it's rough. It looks like Cézanne painted it. That's what I would say. And this is going to be topped with delicious poached peaches. So that, I think, is just fine. Pop that into your oven in 1.25 hours. It will be dry and it will look like this. Isn't that a beautiful meringue? This will come right off the paper and you'll have your meringue ready to fill. So now this is done. The peaches, it's peach season. Summertime, I love fresh peaches. You can also do this with nectarines if you like. But the peaches have been poached in a liquid made out of 1 cup of sugar, 1/4 cup of lemon juice, a teaspoon of vanilla, 2 1/4 cups of water, and 3 peaches halved. So this is what they look like. They've been poached now for 10 minutes. And when you pick them up, the skins will just pick right off that peach half. See? Very easily. You can just do that with your fingers. And so the peaches are ready to put on your pavlova. And don't forget, vanilla bean makes the richest flavor in this poaching liquid. And don't throw the poaching liquid away. It makes a very nice syrup. And you can use that if you're going to be making an ice cream, a peach ice cream. You can use this syrup for drinks if you're going to make yourself a blini. Oh, can you imagine a blini with Prosecco? Delicious. Look at that. You really want them to look like that, glistening and gorgeous. But use Freestone peaches if you can. People are always surprised to learn that there are peaches called Freestone and peaches called Clingstone. And they are exactly what they say they are. Clingstone is a peach that whose pit does not want to come away from the flesh. That's clinging to the flesh. And Freestone is the peach with a stone that just pops right out when you cut it in half. And I taught that to my grandchildren this past weekend. They loved the idea. So once these are cooled, you just arrange them on top of your meringue like this. Got a few more peaches over here. You can reduce this liquid also, and you can pour that over your peaches, but I'm not going to do that quite yet. Isn't this beautiful? Garnish with a few mint leaves if you have them. And that is your pavlova. You can make a very beautiful presentation on a cake stand like this. A Martha Stewart cake stand. Let's try to get that there. Put that on here. And don't forget those dollops of whipped cream. Have I persuaded you that that's one of the most beautiful desserts ever for summertime? With this or without, I have to taste. And always have little wet cloths near you so that you can wipe up your hands and wipe up your working area. Now you can, with or without the pavlova, make my favorite summertime drink called none other than Martha Rita. Now we're going to move over to our blender. This is my little setup, my little bar setup over here. And we're going to make Martha Ritas. And we have to put our ice, a lot of ice, into the jar. Maybe a cup of ice. Half a cup of lemon juice. Freshly squeezed lemon juice or lime juice. This is lime juice. What I do when I have excess limes or lemons, I just squeeze them, put them in plastic containers like this, and put them in the freezer. And I mark it lime juice. You can see lime, lemon, calamondin, kumquat, whatever I have. I absolutely freeze it, and then it's ready for drinks. You don't have to stand there and squeeze all those lemons and limes. Oh, and I guess we used about 3/4 of a cup of best tequila. And don't forget the triple sec. Triple sec is an orange flavored liqueur. And I found that this steerings is very good. You can use Cointreau, you can use Grand Marnier, but I love this steerings. It has a very nice flavor. And this too, I already pre-measured it. Here we go. Half a cup of steerings. And to make it a real Martha Rita, this is homemade strawberry syrup. Those are fresh picked strawberries right from the garden. I just add this to taste. Like maybe 1/4 of a cup. And this is what I make my own jam. I love strawberry jams, and so does everybody else. But there's a lot of syrup always because the strawberries are so juicy. So I put more fruit in the jars and then save the leftover syrup for Martha Ritas. Have I forgotten anything? Nope. Oh, and the tequila I love. Well, I love this Casa Dragones Tequila Blanco. It's very tasty. And this gets locked right here. And turn this turn this on smoothie. There, oh, that's almost ready. Now, I forgot the most important thing. We have to salt the rims. Look at those goblets. These are old Steuben I found at a tag sale. Oh, tag sales are really fantastic. And I put the salt only on the outside rim of the glass. Don't put it on the inside or even on the lid itself, because then people who don't like a lot of salt will get too much salt. But see how pretty it looks when it's right there? I don't know what made me start making these flavored drinks, but oh, I love it. There. Take your top off and release this, and then just pour that. Look at the color. Oh, baby pink. So good. Now you go find a nice, cool, shady spot outside and have this drink before, during, or after dinner. Oh, well, I hope I've inspired you a little bit to have some fun this summer, even though fun is not the first thing you think of when you think back over the last 110 days, but we might as well try. And thank you so much, Justin, for having me participate in this fantastic Food and Wine Festival. Thank you so much. Have fun.
Martha, cheers. I think mine's a little bit bigger than yours, and it's the most delicious margarita I've ever had. So make sure, if you're tuning in, to download that recipe, because it's going to be your new favorite cocktail this summer. I can't believe we had Martha Stewart on here today. It's such a pleasure. So, okay, we're wrapping up, and I want to say thank you to everyone for joining us today. I've had a lot of fun. I'm a little bit tipsier than when we began, but I hope everyone really enjoyed the show today. Okay, so a couple things. For those of you who don't subscribe to Food and Wine, we're doing a special deal, so you can get that down below. And also, we want your feedback on this event, so we're sending out a survey, so look for that in your email boxes. I'm going to continue to sip on this, but I want to bring back all the Food and Wine experts that we had on the show today, and let's do a nice big curtain call. Let's do a farewell. Thank everyone for coming. I'm going to hopefully be able to see everyone's faces again. There you all are. Hey, everyone. Oh, my gosh. All right. So, everyone, I have to say a huge, huge thanks to our sponsors today. They have really helped us kind of put together the Food and Wine Classic in Aspen, and now the Food and Wine Classic at home. So thanks so much to KitchenAid, to Le Creuset, to Lexus, to San Pellegrino, and to Wines from Spain. Also a special thanks to the Aspen Chamber Resort Association, as well as Kerrygold and Peroni. But the biggest thank you of all, I have to say, goes to each and every one of you who have donated today, because we've come together for some really worthwhile causes. 5 charities that the F&W gives is really, really looking to support. And just to give you an update, we are at almost $25,000, which is halfway to our goal. But don't worry if you didn't donate yet, because you were sipping along through the program. We are leaving that link live. It's going to be live all weekend. I know as soon as this ends, I'm going to run over to my laptop and I'm going to go ahead and donate as well. So thanks again to everyone for donating, and thank you to all of you Food and Wine fans for tuning in. As we like to say, me and my colleagues here, please enjoy your food and wine.
Once a year, high in the mountains of Colorado, the culinary elite gather for the most exclusive food event of the year. A party at 8,000 feet, the Food and Wine Classic in Aspen features 3 incredible days of cooking demonstrations, wine tastings, and panel discussions led by the world's top culinary figures. Join the party and get a taste of the nation's best food and wine.